And it turning out tonight in reporting by the AP that the woman who stood beside Donald Trump as he came down that escalator to announce his candidacy, Melania Trump, apparently may have worked illegally without a visa in the United States when she first arrived here. We are joined now by Alicia Caldwell, one of the AP reporters who broke that Melania Trump story within the hour. And Alicia, I just want to read again the first sentence of your report to orient the audience for this. We broke this news a few minutes ago here, but I just want to read it again. Melania Trump was paid for 10 modeling jobs in the United States worth $20,000 that occurred in the 7 weeks before she had legal permission to work in the country, according to detailed accounting ledgers, contracts, and related documents from 20 years ago provided to the Associated Press. And Alicia Caldwell, what about those documents that you're using for this report? How reliable do you think they are?
Well, we spent the last several days documenting, verifying, authenticating these records as being valid internal business records from the modeling firm. I believe it was Metropolitan International Models at the time, showing that these were the jobs booked, these were the jobs performed, and these were the dollar figures earned for those bookings. Now, what's notable in there is, you know, the $20,000 figure, that's gross, that's the total. That doesn't take into account what Mrs. Trump then owed back to the modeling firm, which is also noted in various ledgers of, you know, loans and federal taxes taken out in some instances, and so on. So she didn't walk away with $20,000. That this was gross. This is before tax, before other expenses, and so on.
And did you get a chance to look at any of the documentation in Melania Trump's visa file, as it were? I mean, the only information that's ever been put out was a lawyer composed a letter, but no documentation supporting the claims of her status at any given moment have ever been released, as far as I know. Have you seen any of that documentation?
I personally have not, nor have my colleagues. As you know, and you guys have had Mr. Wiles on the air in previous iterations of your show. Mr. Wiles, the New York immigration attorney, well-regarded immigration attorney, reviewed her files in hindsight, not her immigration attorney at the time, but reviewed her documents and files and has attested to the dates set forth in our story. She arrived in late August. She was then issued an H-1B visa, which authorized her to work, as he described, on October, I believe, 18th, 1996. So about a month and a half, 2 months or so after her arrival in the United States, as he described it, B1, B2, which for those people who are not super familiar with immigration, that's a visitor visa that allows you to come to the United States, just as it says, it's a visitor visa. But you can look for work, in this case, particularly as a model. That was not an uncommon practice, I am told. But you are not allowed to work and earn money as you were not allowed to work and earn money inside the United States for a United States company.
But everything we know in your report tonight indicates that Melania Trump was exactly the kind of worker who Donald Trump would deport from the United States.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that. I don't think that necessarily meets what his comments have been. He's been pretty prolific in his descriptions of illegal immigration, those in the country without legal authorization. And to be clear, none of the records we have reviewed, combined with the letter from Mr. Wiles, the immigration attorney who has reviewed her immigration documents at Mrs. Trump's request, suggest that Mrs. Trump, then Melania announced, was in the country illegally or without authorization. She, by all accounts, arrived in the United States with a valid visitor visa, later receiving the work visa. What is at question at this stage is those 7 weeks during which the ledgers from the modeling firm detail jobs booked and paid for during that period. And to be clear, I don't know when those jobs were physically paid to her, but she earned money during that period, which according to her timeline set forth, she did not have a valid work visa.
I just want to bring back in Maria Teresa Kumar. Maria Teresa, as you're hearing this report tonight, and as you've listened to everything Donald Trump has said about who he would deport and why he would deport them, everything I've heard him say indicates that what Melania Trump was doing in the United States, according to the AP's report, would have gotten her deported by a President Trump at that time.
Well, I think that, and I think the biggest story, too, is that as an undocumented worker, she paid taxes during the time that Donald Trump did not pay taxes. And it just goes to show that how easy and slippery the law is. It's 60% of the people that are in the United States undocumented have overstayed their visas. That's exactly what happened to Melania Trump. So, again, it's this case after case of irony when it comes to the Trump campaign. The National Enquirer, the Wall Street Journal just broke as I was about to sit down that it looks like he actually had an affair with someone during his marriage with Melania Trump, but that the National Enquirer basically bought the rights to tell that story of that affair. So again, it's not just this idea of this hypocrisy of who he is, but again, with being an undocumented immigrant, his wife at that time, which he would have deported her. Did he have it? He's constantly trying to accuse Hillary Clinton of having an unseemly relationship with her husband, but he does the same thing, but he basically tries to threaten and pay people off in order not to come forward.
Frank Sherry, I just want to get your reaction to what Alicia Caldwell and the Associated Press is reporting tonight about Melania Trump's first work in the United States, which apparently was done, according to the AP, without the proper visa.
Well, look, if she was here on a visitor's visa without the authorization to work, and she worked in violation of the terms of that visa, that's immigration fraud. And that's a serious charge that could actually not only have put her in jeopardy then, it could put her citizenship in jeopardy now. If the basis for your case before the immigration authorities is that you complied with the laws, but in fact you covered up a fraudulent practice, that she could be in jeopardy today.
So, Frank, in the immigration process, at some point she would have been asked questions along the lines of, have you ever worked without legal authority in the United States, as she was moving up the ladder, as it were, through our immigration process?
Of course.
And any answer she would give in that process that wasn't true could legally come back to haunt her now.
It could indeed. Now, look, these are always complicated cases.
Yeah.
I'm from the pro-immigrant team, so we might start a defense fund for Melania so we can go to bat for her, because I suspect the people around Trump will be looking to get her denaturalized and deported.
Well, it certainly offers you the opportunity to make the argument of this is why. Her case is one of the reasons why someone like Donald Trump should see that there should be room made in our policy for these kinds of cases.
Of course.
Go ahead, Maria Teresa, last word.
No,
quickly.
well, that's the thing. It's incredibly complicated. And like I mentioned, 60% of the folks that are undocumented in this country are Melania Trump. They came in as a visitor's visa, and they overstay their time, sometimes because they're waiting for their paperwork to be processed.
Alicia Caldwell, Frank Sherry, Maria Teresa Kumar, thank you all for joining us tonight on this subject. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.